Hey guys, this is Locke. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 heroes every free-to-play player should invest in. These are the 4 heroes that I've already set up in my team. So I don't know how to pronounce the tanks' names, so I'm just going to call them Gui. So these 4 are Gui, Rachel, Shay, and Karen. And I've specifically picked Karen and Rachel because these are 2 heroes that everybody gets for free. You get Karen on the 7th day of your login, and you get Rachel when your total power level reaches 300,000. Now, it might take you a little bit of time to get to 300,000. So to help you, speed up the way, make sure that every hero that you're not using, like, random heroes like these, you equip a 5 set of items on them. Like, almost every single hero of mine is equipped with something to help them to gain, add to the total power. And also, I also leveled up all your skills as well. So those are 2 things that you can do to help you to get to 300,000 faster. But it's okay if it takes some time. If it takes a week or, even a little bit more than a week, that's fine. Everyone will get there eventually. And this is the type of game where you progress a little bit slower, especially with the dungeons. You can only do a daily limit unless you spend a lot of money. And again, this guide is aimed towards free-to-play players, so you're probably not spending money. So again, take a little bit of time. It's okay if it takes you a little bit of time to get to 300k to get Rachel. But once you do get her, make sure you invest in her because she is really powerful for a lot of PvE stages. So I'm going to talk about these 4 heroes. Actually, first I'm going to show you the inventory and show you what I've equipped on them. So these are not the best items. Like, for example, for Rachel, I would probably instead opt to put a crit set on her. But, I went with the attack set and I've already enhanced it to plus 11. So, if I put like a plus 0 crit set now, it's probably not as powerful. So that's why I've left it at this. And then for Guihan, I have 1 piece of legendary gear. It's not actually the best because, it's HP instead of like armor or something, which he benefits more from. But I've, again, left this on him because I have this piece of armor which I've enhanced to plus 10. And so I should put something else that has the Oath of the Transcender effect. That's the reason why I have, the setup on him. This is not the best setup, but if I can do well with, a sub-optimized setup, you should be able to do even better with a really good setup, right? So one of the reasons I'm showing you the equipment is to say that, I'm not wearing like plus 10 legendary gears or anything crazy like that. This is all a pretty easy setup, especially these 2. They're not wearing anything crazy. All of their stuff is plus 0. So, these are the 4 heroes I'm using. And I am going to, I'm going to do this stage. This is actually chapter 8, normal, the boss. And I think the combat required, like the recommended combat is about 85k. I'm at 68k right now. And if I can do this, like I'll show you how to do it. You still have to, pay attention. You have to evade what you need to evade and things like that. But if I can do it and show you how to do it, you can probably get there. Like you can use a very similar strategy for all the other chapters, like, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. So I'm going to show you, how I play with this team because, I'm not using legendaries. Like I'm not using Rudy. I have to be a little bit more careful with my tank. And so I'll show you. So the first thing I do is I actually put Gui on the other side of the boss so that he takes damage and the other people don't take damage. And then I also move my other 2 units, Karen and when this happens, I have to press the button on the right to make everybody move together and, stay from get damage. And then I move Gui again. I move him away from Rachel, so only he's affected by the skills. And then I keep my cruiser on Karen because at some point he actually moves his hate over from Gui to Karen. So I have to make sure that I'm responsive enough to control Karen at that moment. And then again, I do the same thing. So Gui is attacking the boss. It has to be away from Rachel, facing away from Rachel. And I am back on Karen. And this is basically the setup. I've done this with other bosses as well, and it's worked quite well. Gui does have, so when this happens, I have to press the button to make everybody move together. And again, they have to group up somewhere else. And then once that's done, I move Karen out of the way, Gui away from Rachel, and away from Shay as well. So Rachel is here, so I have to move her on the other side. And again, I put her on. So Karen is actually the unit that I want to save as much as possible because she can res the others if they go down. So that's the reason why when his hate is back on Gui and I've moved him away from everyone else, I keep my cruiser on Karen because if he starts targeting Karen, I run away as soon as possible and I stop attacking with Karen so that he gets hate on somebody else because Karen is I really don't want to lose Karen because if I lose Karen I can't res anyone, right? Otherwise I have some breathing room. So this is basically it. It's just repeating that over and over. And then once I've done that, I will talk about some other tips after I beat the stage. I'm just showing you that it's very easy. And the recommended power is 85k. So I'm beating it with almost 20,000 less. I'll show you some other units that I think are pretty powerful as well. Okay, so I have to move Karen. I have to move Rachel away. That side. Gui is here. Okay. Yeah, and then after I beat the stage, it's only like 10% left. After I beat this boss, I will talk about some other units that are good to invest in as well. But I think these are really the 4 units that really make this game a breeze, especially for the normal stages. And there you go. You beat him. So that was pretty easy, right? And that was the normal stage. And for the normal stages, I mean, the first few chapters, you really want specific units. So chapter 1. So for the chapter 1, you really want to have Gui because chapter 1 boss uses burn. So regardless of your tag, you really want to have Gui in your team anyway, because otherwise it's going to be almost impossible to do the boss. That's what I find, unless you are like way over leveled and way over. And I found the same thing with chapter 3 as well. Like you really want to have Gui to deal with the pirate captain, because again he casts burn, and you really want Gui's passive to have your team not get killed by the burn. For chapter 2, you can use the team I showed you. For chapter 4, who is this boss again? Yeah, you can use the same team that I showed you. There's no special mechanics here. Like the boss doesn't have paralyzed or something crazy like that. Chapter 5. This is also pretty easy. You just have to use the targeting button to make sure you target the healer first, and then you avoid the skill shots. You can do it with the exact same team. I mean, I've already done most of these stages with the same team, and I was easily able to beat them. Chapter 6 is a little bit more difficult because this guy casts a skill that you want the regular Rudy, like the blue Rudy, to negate. Like you need to use the suppression effect of that Rudy. So you can replace Gui with Rudy for the stage. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit difficult to survive that skill shot because it's basically the entire map. So you can't really avoid it, and it does a ton of damage. Chapter 7. I actually found Chapter 7 to be one of the hardest ones because the boss casts a buff that increases his damage drastically. And so you really need to have a unit that can remove that buff. And so I used Claire, but then I had to build her up, and she has low HP, so I had a little bit of trouble getting her to survive. So it's very hard to beat her to beat this boss with the team that I just showed you. These 4. But you would have to use somebody in your team to be able to remove the buff, like the boss's buff. So you need a buff removal. You can use the Aileen, the PvP Aileen. I'll show you in a second. You can use her, or you can use Claire. One of those two will be able to remove the buff for you. The boss's buff, I mean. Chapter 8, I just showed you. Chapter 9. So the boss casts poison, and that's a little bit annoying to deal with, but it's not too bad. I find that poison is easier to deal with than burn. I'm not sure why. I think maybe it does less damage or something. I don't really know the full reason. But for the boss's special effect, where it heals herself, you can use what's her name? Rachel. You can use Rachel's counter ability to stun the boss when it does that, so that she actually doesn't heal. So the team that you're using right now will work for her as well. 3 will work for that as well. You just have to level it up a little bit higher than 68k, I think. Like it took me multiple tries to beat it, and I was very lucky. So I think I'll actually have to, level up this team a lot more to be able to show you a run, because I actually just got very lucky when I was doing it. So and I wasn't recording when I did that run. But yeah, this team right here is a very good team. They are. I mean, so I'll say why they're so good. So Rachel has several debuffs that, first of all, she casts Burn on the boss, which is does damage over time, and she also lowers the boss's defenses. She has like a ton of debuffs that are very good for the boss. For taking on boss units. Gui is like, he's just a standard tank, to be honest. Like I think somebody like Rudy is obviously a better tank, but not everybody might have access to Rudy, so that's why I think it's okay to use Gui. That's why I'm showing you using Gui. Like you don't. I'm saying that you don't need to have the legendary Rudy to do well in this game. Gui is good enough because he's essential for to deal with burn enemies like chapter 1, chapter 3, and then also the pirate raids, and he functions as a tank already, as you saw in the fight I showed you with the chapter 8 boss. Most of the time he's targeting the unit at the front anyway, so you don't really need a taunt skill. So I feel like Gui works well enough as a tank. Now Karen, I think, is superb. There were so many fights where like the entire team died, and then Karen was just by herself, and I kind of like kited the boss because the boss was using a lot of skills, so I would just move out of the way. And eventually I was able to cast Res, and then I used the pet skill, and basically my team was almost at full health then. And it's like I got a second chance, but the boss was at 50% health, right? So I feel like she's amazing. She also has other skills, like she heals, and she adds to the survivability of your party, not only res, and she's just all around amazing. So I feel like she's a really good unit. And so her and Rachel, I think, are actually like very good units, and it's great that the game is giving them to you for free. Rachel is probably not as good in PvP type scenarios. I think she's amazing in PvE, because the debuffs that she uses, like she uses burn, and she uses defense decrease. These can be landed on the boss, whereas somebody like Aileen, like Aileen will do something like disable, which is like the boss is going to be immune to that. So skills like that is better for PvP. So Aileen is really good for like a PvP type team, but as a free-to-play player, you're probably looking at how to grow your account for PvE, and you need to really gear up your units and all kinds of things. So I'm not really talking about PvP right now. So that's why I'm not really talking about this unit. These are the units that you want: the 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Shay is like one of the best units in the entire game, to be honest. She does so many things. A lot of the bosses have DPS checks anyway. On the right side of their health bar, there is a thing that basically keeps going down as you're fighting the boss, and when it reaches 0, the boss casts a berserk effect, and basically it does like a ton more damage than it did before. So you really want to beat the boss before it has a chance to do that. So why I'm saying that is you can't use like 1 tank and 3 healers that do like very little damage, because if you're doing that, then he will go into berserk and he will just like annihilate your team very easily. So when you're using support, it's also a good idea to make sure the support is somewhat offensive, and Shay is exactly that, because I mean she provides the healing that you want, but she also, her ultimate cools down the ultimate of your whole team. And the ultimate skills do a ton more damage than regular skills. So by casting your ultimates more often, you're going to be able to keep up with the DPS. You're not falling behind in DPS by having this unit as a support unit. So that's why I feel like she's such a phenomenal unit. And so these are the units that you really want to be investing in. These are like the 4 core units that you want. Other than that, there are other units that I mentioned that you can do for certain stages. I find that so Lene, or I guess it's pronounced Len. Len is really good for chapter 3, because she has a skill that can cause suppression for the boss's skill. Rudy is very good for chapter 6 because he again has the suppression for the boss's skill. For chapter 9, it's Rachel that you want. And then for chapter 7, so I mentioned a couple of units. I mentioned Claire. She has a buff removal skill, and there's also this Aileen, if you have her, who also has a buff removal skill. But I still found that to be the second hardest boss to deal with. The hardest is probably the last one, chapter 9, because she still does a lot of damage, and it was a little bit difficult. I also don't have Ian leveled up to deal with the poison. So, but I mean, you can. Where is Ian? I think Ian is level 7. So he has poison resist. So you might want to level him up to deal with poison type enemies, and he will also help in raid. So at some point, it's a good idea for me to raise him up. I just haven't done so. And then Shay is also pretty good to deal with. I think she also helps with one of the suppression effects, and she also does pretty good DPS as well. So she is really good as an alternative, or as an alternative before you get Rachel. So before you get to 300,000, it's a good idea to invest in one of these units that I just mentioned. These units are, this Len, Rudy, Shay, and Claire. And the reason I'm mentioning these 4 units to invest in is because these units will help you to deal with these specific bosses. But otherwise, the core team of 4 that I mentioned will probably easily carry you through the chapter 4 normal stages. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you have other questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll do my best to help you out. Take care, guys, and I hope to see you next time.